So picture this, a packed flight cruising through the sky and out of nowhere. It gets hijacked, and not just in a calmly hand over the controls way. No, this one turns absolutely insane. The pilot's name is Leul. He's 42, works for Ethiopian Airlines, and is the kind of pilot who takes his job seriously. His only goal? Get his passengers safely to their destination every single time. But in 1996, during what was supposed to be a routine day, that mission gets flipped upside down. The flight is a commercial run out of Ethiopia, making a few stops in other African countries. Leul's in the cockpit with his first officer, 175 passengers on board, and the weather's clear. They hit cruising altitude, and then chaos. 3 men suddenly leap up from their seats, charging down the aisle toward the cockpit. They burst in, grab the emergency axe stored there for fires, and start swinging fists. Pow! Pow! They punch the first officer hard, dragging him out into the cabin and tossing him aside. One of the hijackers drops into the empty seat, turns to Leul and says, "We have a bomb. Fly us to Australia. Now. Or we blow this plane up." Now, they don't actually have a bomb, but Leul doesn't know that. And in a metal tube 30,000 feet in the air, you don't gamble with passengers' lives. He's ready to cooperate, but there's one major problem. A plane like this doesn't have anywhere near enough fuel to get from Ethiopia to Australia. That kind of trip has to be planned and loaded for. Leul tells them, "We don't have enough fuel to get there." But the hijackers don't buy it. They're convinced he's lying. Voices rise, tempers flare. Finally, Leul says fine, but first he needs to notify air traffic control. He radios in, calmly announcing, "We've been hijacked. They want me to fly to Australia." Air traffic control immediately responds, "You don't have the fuel. That's a 6-hour flight. You've got maybe 2 hours in the tanks." Leul replies, "That's exactly what I told them." The controllers ask to speak to the hijackers. Leul flicks the comm switch so they can hear the ground crew explain the math. But the hijackers won't listen. They shut down the conversation and order Leul to stop transmitting. Now he's on his own. So quietly, he makes a move. Instead of pointing the nose toward Australia, he keeps following the African coastline south. His thinking is simple. When the fuel runs low, they might at least be near an airport for an emergency landing. But eventually, the hijackers notice the detour. Furious, they demand he change course, right now. With no way out, Leul turns toward Australia, knowing they'll never make it. At some point, they're going to run out of fuel over open water. Hours pass. They're far from where they started. Leul flips open the atlas he keeps in the cockpit, pretending to double-check the flight path. As he scans the pages, something catches his eye. The Comoro Islands. Tiny, remote, near Madagascar. If he can aim for them, maybe, just maybe, they'll make it to a runway. But then, the alarm. Loud, urgent. They're running out of fuel. And now, every single person on board is in real trouble. The low fuel alarm blares through the cockpit. It's a sound that makes your stomach drop, a warning you never want to hear at 30,000 feet, especially over the middle of the ocean. Leul knows exactly what it means. They're minutes away from the engines sputtering out. He turns to the hijacker sitting in the first officer's seat and says, trying to keep his voice calm, "We can't make it to Australia. The fuel's almost gone. The Comoro Islands are the only chance we have." The hijacker stares him down, suspicious, but there's no time for debate. The gauges are dropping fast. Finally, the hijacker snaps. "Fine, take us there." Leul banks the plane toward the islands, praying they're close enough. From the cockpit windows, it's nothing but endless blue. The passengers in the cabin have no idea how close they are to disaster, though some can feel the tension, the unease, the way the flight attendants keep moving briskly without making eye contact. As they get closer, Leul spots land, green cliffs against turquoise water. Relief floods through him. The airport at Moroni is small, but it has a runway long enough for a landing. The problem? They're not going to reach it with normal procedures. The first engine coughs, then it stops. The plane starts to descend. The hijackers panic, shouting over each other, telling him to keep flying, as if sheer willpower could restart the turbines. Seconds later, the second engine dies. Now it's a glider, a massive, heavy glider with 175 souls on board. Leul keeps his hands steady on the controls. He's trained for emergencies, but never one like this with armed hijackers in the cockpit and the ocean coming up fast. He angles the nose toward the water, aiming to ditch near the shore so they might be rescued. The passengers see it now. Out the windows on waves, people start screaming. Some clutch their loved ones. Others just freeze. Leul yells over the chaos. Brace! 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 The plane hits the water hard. The fuselage shudders violently, tearing apart on impact. Seawater floods in almost instantly. Some passengers manage to get their seatbelts off. Others are thrown into floating debris. The hijackers? They're nowhere to be seen, likely swept away in the chaos. Leul fights to pull himself out through a broken cockpit window. The current is strong, the wreckage sinking fast. In the distance, he sees people clinging to pieces of the plane, waving desperately toward the shore. Boats from the Comoro Islands rush in to help, but it's already a disaster. Out of the 175 on board, only 50 survive. Later, investigators confirm what Leul knew from the start. There was no bomb. Just 3 desperate men trying to escape prosecution. Their demands cost over 100 lives. Leul, hailed as a hero for keeping the plane as close to land as possible, never forgets that day. In interviews, his voice always softens when he talks about the passengers who didn't make it. Because for him, the sound of that low fuel alarm will always mean more than just an empty tank. It's the moment when everything became a race against time, and the clock ran out.